are available from the Whitmore Institute, and their way of characterizing and diagnosing and detecting, I would hope that would be comparable and comparable and collaborative with the lab that made the discovery of this particular virus.
Well, I can say that the group that has been put together, the Emerging Infectious Disease Group, has already been in contact with some of the authors of those studies. As far as if you're asking me if that will be the same test that FDA finally approves, I don't know, and I can't say that. Of course, with FDA screening tests, we want to be highly sensitive, so that we're not getting any false positives through the blood system. If that would be the decision that would be made, I'm not saying that that's today. I cannot make that statement that we will develop a test for screening. What I'm saying is that we will. The investigators with the REDS-2 studies have already been in contact, and there will be collaboration.
All right, Len and then Rebecca.
Yeah, that was actually my question. I'm really happy to hear that you're collaborating with the Whitmore Peterson group. I think that's very important to do that, so I appreciate that. But just a quick follow-up question. It also said to determine whether studies aimed at evaluating them are warranted. Could you give us a sense of how you make that determination, what time frame it might involve, and what the characteristics of that decision process are?
I think that the timetable that we have put on the Emerging Infectious Disease Group to have a response back to us in the next couple weeks will really lay out what that process is. There is a think tank that is a group that is meeting, and we'll be putting those criteria together to assess that. Mm-hmm. And so your bottom line answer is, I hope that within mid-November we would have at least some guidance as far as where we're going.
Yeah. Just to follow up to that, and I don't mean to take advantage of being chair, but I lived through the HIV epidemic, and people, I think, did not disclose how they were doing it and what specimens, and we had that competition that didn't help the patients. And when you said we've all learned our lessons from this, I hope that includes with this effort that right now the patients and protecting the safety of the blood bank is much more important than reputation or credit, although I think Whitmore deserves a lot of credit.
Well, I share that. I lived through the HIV epidemic and have testified on many occasions concerning some of the activities that went on during that period of time. All I can say that, during that period of time, the first thing that was initiated, because we did not have the virus isolated, were specific questions. And still there are quality of health questions that are asked for blood donors. So, I don't know whether there would be a screening question that could help us identify a subset, or whether we could eventually go through with the developing of a test. Let me just use, and I don't want to build anybody's expectations too high, but, just to give you an example of how we've progressed very rapidly over the years is the identification of West Nile virus, and how within a very short period of time a nucleic acid test was developed and under IND for that. So I think that we have the mechanisms in place. I think that one of the biggest things was the investment that NHLBI did in the REDS group.
Thank you. Rebecca is next.
Okay. I'm reading this, and most of these people are physicians, but I want to speak for the patient population. Right. When you come to your determination, if you've decided we should not give blood, could you please could we put a notice on the CFSAC website so that this is not just viewed by American citizens, this is viewed by a lot of people?
Absolutely.
And I think this is crucial. If there's a problem here, we need to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. So whatever you come up with, either way, we'd like to know.
Thank you, and we do communicate extremely effectively, and we are involved at WHO level and worldwide in spreading our information and making sure that we are collaborating worldwide. So yes, that is a promise. We will get the information out, whatever the decision is.
And Jerry and I work for the same boss, so, you know, we can't not see each other and hold each other accountable, and we do. We share a lot of things across and through our various networks. So.
Yesterday, when we were having this discussion, it was stated by some of the individuals who had chronic fatigue syndrome that their recommendation would be don't donate blood until we know what's going on, that nobody who is living with chronic fatigue wants to have another person develop chronic fatigue because of their generosity in donating blood at this time. And I think what I'm hearing from Rebecca, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Rebecca, but I think if it's not going to hurt the blood supply, in other words, if chronic fatigue syndrome donors are not a major part of the blood collecting system and would not put anybody at danger or at risk of not having adequate blood supplies, I'm not so sure that it wouldn't be a good idea to make the statement that Rebecca made yesterday. Rebecca, do you want to go back to that?
I just want to go a little bit further on this. My driver's license is up for renew. Is this an issue where I don't put organ donor on my card anymore? I mean, this is a larger issue that's a blood-related. If this is a blood-related illness, then there are things I need to take into consideration and information I need to share with my family so that if a car accident happens and I become a donor, I'm not infecting people. And that's, to me, very important. I don't want anyone else to suffer the way that I and the other patients in this room and across the country have suffered.
At this point in time, I can't make a statement concerning whether someone with a CFS should donate or not. I just want to emphasize that the donations in this country are voluntary, and I want to make sure that if someone feels that they should not donate, then that's a personal choice. And what I also encourage people to do is that if you feel that you cannot donate, please be a recruiter for us, because the nation always needs blood. And we also, you made a good point about transplantation. We need to ensure that the transplantations are safe also. And that's both tissue and organ.
Thank you very much. Chris?
I just wondered if there's a mechanism that we can follow along with the progress on this, or whether we just have to wait for the definitive answer.
Well, I don't know how often your committee meets.
I meant the general public. I didn't know if you had a website where, when the reagents were approved or the test was approved, you could notify people, and what stage you are in evaluating.
When there is a regulatory decision, there will be a statement on the FDA website. My website, which is www.hhs.gov/blood-safety, we very often will put notices on there, and if it's an informational piece, I will put that on there. I will promise you I will put that on there. If it's a regulatory piece of information, then I will defer to the FDA.
Thank you.
Dr. Pasternak?
As I was reading this, you mentioned that appropriately that 70% of the white cells are mostly taken out of the blood when the patients are transfused. Correct?
Let me correct that. It's 70% of the blood supply. Maybe that was not clear.
Okay.
70% of the blood supply does leukocyte reduction. 30% of the blood supply is whole blood that is not leukofiltered.
Okay.
But with the leukoreduction filter, you would be removing the white cells where the virus is attached. Now, the only thing I can speculate is that if the virus is attached to white cells, there's probably some virus also in the plasma.
Well, that was going to be my point, is that Dr. Peterson yesterday showed some data suggesting that actually there was transmission of infection via plasma.